Wait, have you seen Hunter?
Have I seen Hunter?
Sorry, number 10.
Oh, we can do that.
Yeah.
There's Hunter in Texas seeking advice. Had to give a eulogy at a Christian funeral. How you doing, Hunter?
Good. How are y'all doing today?
Good. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, I guess I'll try and give like a quick little 30, 40-second backstory to get quick on here. So basically, unfortunately, in November, my grandma, who had been on hospice for a couple months, passed away. And for various reasons, I ended up being the one to write and give the eulogy at her funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And my entire family is Christians. And I had secretly, at about the age between 13 and 17, started moving out of that. And I've secretly been an atheist since I was about 17, but never told anybody. And I basically had to give a Christian eulogy to about 40, 50 family members over the course of about an hour and a half.
Why?
And it's really been, the morality of that has just been, it's been tugging at me. I feel like a bad person for doing some of that.
Well, my immediate question is, you said you had to give a Christian eulogy. And my question was why?
I guess my only good answer for that would be that seemed to be unsaid, but that was what was expected of me.
That's tough.
If somebody told me, like, let's say a relative of mine dies, and they tell me that they'd like me to come up and say a few words, my answer is going to be yes. Unless I don't feel like it. I was happy when my last grandmother died. My brother went up and gave a eulogy, and I did not, because I thought my brother's was outstanding, and I trust him and I love him, and he gave something that in many ways could have come from both of us. But if anybody came up to me and said, "Hey, we'd really like you to say a few words," and I felt comfortable doing it, I would do it. And if they said, "We want you to give a Christian eulogy," I'd tell them to go fuck themselves.
Well, and I think the part that would have been different between me and you in that situation is that nobody in my family knows that I'm an atheist. So that was kind of where the conflict came.
And by the way, I'm not faulting you. I'm pointing out a difference of when you say you were required or asked to or expected to give a Christian eulogy. It's entirely because they think they're talking to someone. You haven't been open yet about who you are. And that is entirely your call, and you're the one that gets to decide whether or not you're going to do that. But the framing then is, more honestly, you chose to give a eulogy as the character they think you are rather than as what you really think. And you're struggling with, was this a moral decision or not?
That's 100% accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think either one of us are going to beat you up for continuing to, keep up the illusion that you think is necessary, because each person has to decide for themselves whether or not they're going to risk being open about who they are. And it doesn't matter if this is about religion or sexuality or whatever else. I mean, I have a number of friends and former partners who are sex workers whose family don't know that they're sex workers. I would never fault them for keeping up that illusion. It's a little harder in a funeral setting. It's not like you're going to have to say, back when I was working in porn, or back when I was doing that type of thing doesn't come up, but it's the same thing. You decide how open you're going to be about who you are. And if that means that you have to put on airs, then you're the one that decides whether or not it's consistent. Is it immoral? I think there are situations where it can be, but I'm not convinced that the situation you're describing is one. There are good reasons for some people to stay in various closets, and it's because the consequences of being out are not something that they are in a position to accept or deal with at all. And this is why I would recommend you calling Recovering from Religion as well, to talk to people there. There's also the Secular Therapist Project. There's counselors. There's the Discord server, stuff like that. If you're just looking for like, hey, I wonder what Matt and Jenna think about this. Well, I've told you what I think, and that I would have done something different, but our situations are different, and I'm not going to sit here and say, gosh, that Hunter guy, how could he dare do something like that? I think you're fine doing something like that, and I'll let Jenna chime in on what she thinks.
It's my opinion that if you feel guilty, then I wouldn't do something like that again.
Yeah, and I definitely have been feeling a lot of guilt, internally feeling a lot of guilt about it.
And I would say that that's probably tied to the fact that all of us, I think, all of us who care about being who we genuinely are, would prefer to be surrounded by people who love us for who we are and not who we pretend to be or who they think we are. And in a situation like that, it just turns everything up to 10, because now you're up here essentially playing a character in a situation where what people would expect is genuineness. This is how this person's life impacted my life. This is how I feel about the loss. This is what my life is going to be going forward without them. And all of that is expected to be genuine. And when you are put in a position where you're essentially pretending, it almost be like me being forced to give a eulogy for somebody that I despised, where I had, there's a taboo that we shouldn't speak ill of the dead. And I'm like, okay, the only reason for me not to speak ill of the dead is because I value the people left behind and what their views of that person are. And maybe then we fall back on the other adage where if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all type of thing.
Well, they can't say anything to defend themselves.
Yeah, it's certainly not fair to them. It's not necessarily fair to their loved ones. However, if there was someone I despised, and there's only a handful of people on the planet that I actively despise, and one of them died, and somebody said, hey, can you say something nice about that person? I would say no. No, I can't.
Well, and sorry to butt in here, but just to go back to what you said a second ago, I don't feel bad at all for going up there and talking about how much I miss her and how much everybody else does and why we loved her. It's more so the part where I had to come up with Bible verses and lead everybody in prayer twice. That's kind of more of the thing that it made me feel like I was being inauthentic to everybody. And that's what I've been struggling with. There
is a way out of that, if it happens again, that can be honest and can be understood. My parents know I'm an atheist, as we've talked about before, but there was a period of time where they didn't know. And if I think back to that time where I wasn't necessarily out, if I had been asked to give a eulogy, I would have either bowed out of it and said, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. Or I would have given a eulogy that did not address God or prayers or anything else. If I was asked, hey, will you lead everybody in prayer? I would say, I'm not comfortable doing that right now, which is true. And depending on denominations, me as a former Southern Baptist, I wish I had somebody got me a Jesus hat and a Darwin hat so I could swap them when I wanted to put them on here. But there's something that was true before I was an outspoken atheist, and that is I was not comfortable or confident enough in my walk with Jesus or my take on God, or maybe I was angry at God, or maybe I was confused, where it would not have been right for me to lead anybody in prayer. And generally, if you frame it that way, nobody's going to go, oh my God, Hunter's an atheist. They're going to say, he's dealing with someone and he's not comfortable with this, and they know not to push.
I really like that answer. I kind of wish that I'd called it a couple months ago back in November when this happened, before I went up there then. But yeah, definitely that happens to me in the future, I'll probably kind of more go along those lines.
Well, let's hope you don't have to deal with any more death in the near future. It's a frustrating time, and it's a confusing thing, and it's one thing that puts people who are closeted about their non-belief in an incredibly uncomfortable situation. And so just know that you don't owe anybody an explanation for who you are, and you don't owe anybody a eulogy, and you don't owe anybody the eulogy of their preference. And if somebody says, hey, will you lead everybody in prayer? You can just, not today. And maybe they're going to think you're too distraught or whatever else. And it's all fine. Just know don't beat yourself up too much, because what you did was do something that you felt was the most caring response you could engage in for the people who were there. And while I can't abide liars and fakes when they have other options, I fully recognize that that can't be done as a universal. You have to acknowledge that there are situations where the compassionate thing to do is something that would be wrong in some other circumstance.
I can't.
Well, yeah, because
something
sorry,
like somebody being in the closet with lying, you know?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. And the only reason it felt like lying to me was just because of how open I was about doing it. You know, just standing up there in front of like 60 people. That's why it felt like a lot. And the only reason I am holding it back is because, you know, right now I'm 20. I'm in college, you know, living at home until the fall, and I didn't want to cause conflicts. So that was my main reason.
I fully accept that. And that's why one of the things about morality is that it's more complicated. Well, it's simpler than some people make it, but there are situations that make things more complicated, where you can't just say, oh, it's wrong to steal, because then you look at something like after Hurricane Katrina, where people are, you know, stealing stuff, bread that's going to go bad so that they can eat and not die. It may be the most moral action they can take. And you did something that you're the only one wrestling with this, by the way. And that says a lot about who you are. You are somebody who would much prefer to be known, loved, and appreciated for who you actually are, rather than who you need to pretend to be, given all the things right now. I would cling to that part of yourself, and there's going to come a day when you're going to say, enough is enough. I'm tired of being somebody I'm not for other people, and I need to be me for me. And you may find out that it doesn't go as badly as you might suspect, but you're the only one that can make that decision.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. Also, I know y'all might be wanting to get on to another call before the show ends, but can I take like 20, 30 seconds to say something real quick?
Sure.
So I just wanted to say, first off, this call has been the most amazing therapeutic thing it ever could have been for me. Y'all have no idea. And Matt, I just wanted to say thanks to you personally. And back when I was about 13 or so, I ran across a video on YouTube about you just going off on Christians. And back then I was a Christian. I thought it was hilarious. I watched the whole thing. And that led to kind of me diving in the rabbit hole and watching the shows. And then I actually read the whole Bible, became an atheist. And I just wanted to let y'all know, you know, even though some of y'all's calls, you know, it kind of seems like you want to bang your head on the wall and you're not productive, like, y'all do make a difference. And so I just want to say I appreciate you both. And also, I'll be down in Austin sometime in the summer. Love to go play CA one time. Y'all are amazing. So thank you.
Awesome.
Hopefully we'll be open again.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Hunter. Take care of yourself through this.
Thank you, Hunter.